Hello, this is Thomas Van Bommel, and this is my capstone called Portfolio TS, which is a TypeScript web portfolio. This project has a few interesting features, which include continuous integration testing, Webpack and TSC transpiling, Express Network Router written in Node.js, TypeScript type checking, developer mode, and a production mode. With continuous integration testing being like these little green check marks here, which essentially means that a test has been run every time the project is uploaded. You can see over here in my package that I do have some test scripts for this thing that get run when it is pushed to GitHub. You can also go back and see any of the tests that I've done previously by clicking the Actions tab. And you can see all the tests that were run. And there are many pages of it. Alright, so we'll do an example of integration testing. I'm just going to edit this README file by adding a space at the end of this line and saving it. We'll then add it to GitHub. We'll check the status, make sure that was the only file I edited. We'll then commit it as a test, and we'll push it. Once that's pushed, we can refresh this page. We can see that a test is currently running. If we click on it, we can see that it first runs the action checkout, which is a GitHub action that checks out your repository, and then it runs the build script. And if we check out the build script, that is what my actual server build script is. And we can see that it's going and doing its thing. It's building the client, it's testing the client, building the server, and testing the server. And it does check my YouTube API as well. I've written a few tests in there. And that's just the Webpack output there. And we see we got a build successful. And when you go back, you can see you have a little green check mark there. All of these tests are carried out on another machine, my home server. As you can see in the background here, you can see when it receives jobs, it'll tell you which job it received and whether or not it succeeded. Next, we'll go over the Webpack transpiling, or just transpiling in general here. So in my project, I've got a folder for the server and a folder for the client. I'll just gloss over the server here first. So if you go to the source file, there are these TypeScript files, and TypeScript is just a type strict version of JavaScript. And so the browser can't run any of this, even Node can't run any of this natively. You need to do what's called transpile, and when transpile is essentially taking it from one version of the same language and converting it to another. And so in my build script, you'll see similar files here, all that have been transpiled using the WebKit or TSC transpiler. And we'll do a little TSC transpile demo for you, so I'll just go ahead and remove this build folder. So the build folder is now deleted, and then I can run the command that I've set up, npm run build server. And you'll see that it first deletes that directory and then runs the TSC command to transpile the server. We then get a build directory with those files. Now we'll do a little demo of the WebKit transpile. So if I just go ahead and delete this build folder here on the client side, so we have all these files on the client side. Now the difference between the WebKit transpiling and the TSC transpiling is the WebKit transpiling I have set up to compile into a single file as opposed to individual files. and it's in for earlier version so that it's able to run on more browsers. So it's just going to come up here in a second. We're just going to run this command. And here it goes. So this is now it's webpacking the client. And once it's finished, we then should get a build folder. Oh, sorry, it was running the test first. Now it's going to make a build folder, and you can see our single output file, which is quite lengthy. The server side of my project is done using Node.js and the Express module. I'll just open that up here for you, and we can see that it is using the Express module there, basically as a network router. So it takes all the GET requests and responds with them with the appropriate things. This project, as I mentioned before, is as much TypeScript as I could allow it or make it. TypeScript is essentially a more strict version of JavaScript and will give you errors and such, and you can set up your environment however you'd like. So you can see in here that I've got strict mode set to true. You can use different libraries, as I was saying, because all TypeScript needs to be transpiled, so you can basically choose whatever library you write it in, and you can transpile it to any other library you'd like. Some of the modules include CommonJS. They have ES6, which is pretty common, and the newest one, which is ES 2019. Also, you can set it so that there's no implicit any. So in JavaScript, a lot of the objects are considered any objects. They can be a string, a number, or anything else. TypeScript, in my TypeScript configuration, it will not allow that. I have implemented both a development mode and a production mode. Essentially, my development mode allows you to work on the front end, and it watches those files using the Webpack transpiler, and will transpile every time you save the file. So if we just run npm run watch, it starts the Webpack in development mode. And then if we were to come over, say, to like the app.tsx, we can go ahead and we can write something in here, and then we can save it, and that Webpack will automatically retranspile it. And then there's a production mode, which essentially is, it uses the Webpack again, except it's not watching the files. Another reason why I used the Webpack was because I was using React as a front end, and it had a few dependencies that needed to be included with the output file. This is just booting up after a few tests. There we go. It then tells us where it's listening. We can open that up, and you can see the final product there. So this is the final product on the right here, or at least up until the midterm. I've been working on a lot of the back-end stuff up until this point, and so I thought I'd get at least the carousel running last night so that you guys would have something to look at. But this essentially is grabbing, as you can see down here, when my server is starting, it uses the YouTube API and grabs all my videos. It then sorts them by ranking, and then serves them to the React front end. And this guy you can click through. It's pretty smooth animations. And then it doesn't loop. Well, I mean, it does loop, but if we just go to the end here, there we go. It just resets back to the beginning. And that's about it for the front end so far. Alrighty, and to wrap up, I thought I would mention a few directions in which I plan to bring this project. So one thing I do plan on implementing is continuous deployment. And so every time GitHub receives a push that is successful, you can set up a webhook, which will send a post request to a server. And essentially, I would like to create another Node.js routing server that will receive that post request, then copy the Git repository over to a live version of the server, and then deploy that automatically. And also just finishing up the front end, which includes a contact page, a blog page, and the rest of the home page here. Alright, and that wraps it up for my capstone project midterm update. If you have any questions, either ask me personally or down in the comment section. Thanks very much for watching. Bye.